I want to start out with Carson today. So Carson, why don't you go ahead and tell them who you are and tell us your story.
Absolutely. So I'm Carson Ware. I'm 26 years old. I was born and raised in Greensboro, North Carolina, right in between High Point and Jamestown, so right there in the Triad. And grew up pretty simple, right? You know, was born and raised in a racing family, started racing at a young age with bicycles, and then stepped up to motocross, and then got into what we call Bandoleros and Legends cars around age 11 to 12.
Yeah.
And these were pretty straightforward, you know, just going to school, playing sports, racing, and about the time, you know, I was in 7th, 8th grade, you know, I smoked weed for the first time, and that was kind of a big event for me because, you know, not only did I realize that I liked getting high, that I wanted to get high every single day of my life. That's all I cared about. And, you know, that quickly escalated. You know, by the time I was a freshman in high school, 9th grade at a private Christian school, you know, started taking Xanax and whatnot. And when I had my first overdose in class, I, you know, obviously got suspended from school and wasn't allowed to play soccer there anymore, and ended up going to a juvenile facility out in Bonnet, Florida for 10.5 months. And, you know, during my time there, it was, you know, a lot of behavioral, you know, correction kind of stuff, right? Didn't really obtain a lot of, you know, counseling, therapy, and stuff related to addiction and what we face in alcoholism and stuff. So when I got out of there, I was just a, you know, pretty frustrated, pissed off at the world 16-year-old, right? And, you know, just went back out and ended up relapsing, even though I had about 10 months of sobriety there. And, you know, that continued on through, you know, constant relapse. The disease continued to progress through different substances and stuff I hadn't tried before, and you know, led to more overdoses and seizures and arrests. And you know, around 2020, I went out to a treatment facility out in Georgia, and you know, that was a good place for me. And you know, got back around just before right before Halloween in 2021, and was living with a buddy, and you know, that scenario wasn't the best. It wasn't structured very well, I'd say, and you know, was under the impression that I could control this disease and that I didn't have a problem, and that I could just control it. And before I know it, I relapsed and was drinking again, and that led to another arrest in 2021, where the rest of my life changed forever. And I can say that it was a positive change, even though it was, you know, one of the darkest times of my life. And,
right.
Something that, you know, I never thought I would experience and thought that I would not have to face. But went out to treatment again in Georgia, and got sober there. Went to the same facility that I was at prior, completed a 90-day treatment program, and ended up staying in the sober living for a year, where I obtained my first year of sobriety. And you know, here we are today. You know, that led me to a life that I never imagined, you know, to be able to get back into NASCAR after a suspension, and to build that relationship back with my family, and have a relationship with them that I never imagined, and it's so fruitful and so loving and so caring, and the communication is so open, you know, because during active addiction, alcoholism, you know, I'd call my family, and it's
they were afraid to answer the phone.
They shoot the text first and say, right. Hey, what's going on, before I take the call.
They were afraid to answer the phone.
Yeah, so, you know, and that's just, that's the byproduct of it, and no blame to them, because, you know, I was off the walls, man, you know, from, you know, needing money, needing to get bailed out of jail, or, you know, there's a multitude list of things that they could have been the case. So, you know, met my fiance while I was out there, and I'll be married at the end of this year, and you know, I get to celebrate, you know, not just a huge race weekend, but what we're doing with Foundations to Freedom, and and all you guys, and it's a dream come true to be here with you, Michael, and everyone at Foundations, and it's a heck of a ride.
I mean, let me ask you a question. So, when you first got the Foundation of Freedom, what was your initial feeling in the parking lot yesterday at the correctional facility when we first met Katherin and her team?
It was honestly, like, I got goosebumps. You know, it was something that I never thought I'd be able to experience and to be a part of, right? Because I was always on the other side of that, right?
Sure.
And I understand what those kids were going through and what they feel. And if you would have told me 10 years ago, or even 2 or 3 years ago, that I would have had the opportunity to do that with you guys and to be a part of that, I would have called you a liar. Because I said, there's no way Carson Ware could go and talk to kids in a juvenile detention center.
Right.
But through the work that Foundations to Freedom has done, and they've continued to do that for a while, and we're just another part of that. It's something that I'll never forget, and I'll get to, you know, cherish for the rest of my life.
So when the correctional officer opened the door for us to get in, and we got in, and then we seen the barbed wire and the fencing and the yard, right? Because, I mean, I was in the prison yard all the time. But at the end of it, after we passed our experience, strength, and hope, is it fair to say that it was the first time a correctional officer actually opened the door for you to let you leave that same day?
100%. There's a first time for everything, and that was the first.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong. You got suspended and expelled from school in 7th grade?
So I started using 7th to 8th grade, like during that summer break, and then 9th grade I was expelled. But I'd also got kicked out of the elementary school I was in 5th grade because I was just a wild ADHD, loud, like to have fun, so I didn't really fit their box.
And when you thought you were going to start recovery, you actually went to a house with a guy, and he actually taught you that you just had to control it and own it in order to use it. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, and he struggles with the same stuff that we face. He just hasn't found recovery yet, and I understand where his mind's at, but it was not something that a full-blown addict or an alcoholic like myself needed here, because that was the excuse I've always looked for, right? It's like, oh yeah, I can do it, and there's a way to do it right, and for me, it's just not how it works.
Oh, absolutely not.
If there's one message that you can pass along to all of our listeners today, what would that be?
Everybody deserves a second chance. I'd say, all of us at this table and everybody at Foundations are working very hard to change the stigma behind recovery, and no matter what you've gone through in life, whether it's arrests, marriages, bad breakups, all that kind of stuff, you're in control of your destiny, and you can still have a great life and turn something that was ugly and disgusting to other people and make something beautiful out of it. Yeah. And just because you've gone through those things in life or you've made mistakes and stuff, that doesn't define the person that you are. And just keep pushing. I promise that it'll be better, and you can achieve a lot. Because you never thought that you would actually be able to race a car again. Right? No. You thought that the racing career was over. Yep. And through the grace and mercy of God and the strength that you've put in, because it takes a lot to get recovered. Absolutely. It's not easy, right? Like, you have to dig deep, but the rewards are limitless, right? Like, so I used to love the saying, beyond my wildest imagination, and recovery for everybody's different. Everybody has different goals and different expectations in life, but one of your, dreams and one of your passions, besides music, is to race cars, and you have that ability to hit the track again. And now today we have Katherin Russell and the Foundation to Freedom that's going to back this up and make this even more possible for you. Absolutely. And Katherin, we love you. I fell in love with you for the moment I saw you pull up to the parking lot. We won't tell everybody what kind of car you drive, okay? But tell us who you are and what your purpose is, what your story is, and what your mission is to Foundation of Freedom.
Absolutely. So my name is Katherin Russell. I'm the Executive Director and Founder of Foundations to Freedom. We run recovery housing here in DeLand, Florida. We have 11 houses with 111 beds and are still continuing to grow. We serve men, women and children, and single dads as well. We also have a domestic violence safe house. However, including myself, most of my staff are in long-term recovery. I do employ quite a few of my graduates as well. So, I get asked a lot why I do this, and I think that goes back to my own story. I always start, when I tell my story, I always start in the same place because I feel like it's really important, even though it's really, really far back in my childhood. When I was 9 years old, my mother committed suicide. She shot herself, and
wow.
The gun went off as I was walking through the door, and I'm the one that found her as she was bleeding out, and dialed 911 and dealt with that. And I had a father who was active military, who had never really had to be a dad, and instantly kind of had to become one. So he ruled, he was a military father, so I think he did the best he could, but he was very authoritarian, and I liked to rebel. I was, I didn't know how to deal with the emotions that I was dealing with in early childhood, with the loss of my mother, and I was really going through some things, and him and I did not get along. So I had a pretty rough childhood. He was very abusive, and I spent a lot of my juvenile. I caught when I was 14 years old. My friends and I decided that we were going to steal my dad's car and go for a joyride. And we got the car stuck in the dirt on some dunes here. locally, and my dad reported the car stolen and had me arrested. And
Really?
for the next 4 years, I was in and out of juvenile programs. I went to 2 level 6s and 2 level 8s, and was in actually the same facility that we went and visited yesterday.
I was hoping
waiting
you'd touch
for
on that.
multiple beds, which is why it is so passionate to me to go give back to those same juveniles and to let them know that they can have a life still beyond whatever decisions that they make at such a young age, right? So yeah, I spent 39 months of my teenage years behind locked doors and razor wire. But
As a teenager.
so when I got out of my second level 8, 2 level 6s and 2 level 8s here in the state of Florida, those juvenile programs, I got out and I moved out of my father's house, and I put myself through college and really started to rebuild my life, and I started to look a whole lot different. I got away from the substances that I had played with as a juvenile, I guess, the marijuana, the drinking here and there, maybe a little bit of cocaine use in my very early age. Nothing that really stuck as a juvenile.
Sure.
I could kind of take it, leave it, and it was a little different. And I rebuilt my life, and I got my bachelor's degree, and I got very successful at a young age. And when I was 25 years old, after my bachelor's degree, I was coming back to the business meeting on I-4, which is one of the main highways here in Florida, and a ladder opened up and flipped back at me off the work van that was in front of me, and I flipped an SUV 9 times on I-4. I was ejected from the vehicle, air flown to the hospital via helicopter, and I was in a coma for 67 days. I was in the hospital for 4 months, had spinal surgery, 3 brain surgeries, reconstructive surgery, broke almost every bone on my right side. And it was really touch and go there in the beginning. Like, they really thought that I wasn't going to make it, that I really wasn't going to pull through. And when I got out of the hospital, they prescribed me, this was back in 2008, and they prescribed me very strong narcotics. So I went from somebody who didn't drink, didn't use drugs, didn't party, a mother and those things. I had 2 small children at the time, to, that spiraled very quickly for me. And I became an addict. I became very much addicted to those opiates. And like, I remember the first time ever going through opiate withdrawals, thinking I had the stomach flu. Like, I had no clue that I was actually going through withdrawals until someone told me.
Yep.
And that disease progressed for a number of years. My drug addiction took me to prison. I lost my children, I lost my home, I really was unemployable, just a living addict, I lost everybody in my life. I lost my kids, my family. I couldn't hold a job. I was in and out of jail and prison, and it took a whole lot of years and a lot of loss for me to come out of the other side of my addiction.
Wow.
My second husband actually died of a drug overdose, and that is what helped me get clean on the other side of that. I relapsed. I was about 19 months clean when he relapsed one night and didn't wake up the next morning. And I went on about a 3-week binge, and I didn't really want to keep using in his name. I was really trying to kill myself at that point in my addiction.
Sure.
It was like, that didn't work to kill me, maybe this one will. And I remember my last use very well. I used in the bathroom of a home, very much a trap house, and I had written "do not resuscitate" on my arm in mascara, and I was found unconscious, face down on a dirt driveway here in DeLand by a woman who was taking her kids to school. She had just dropped her kids off at the middle school, and she found me face down and unconscious on a dirt driveway.
Oh my
and dialed 911, and I woke up in the hospital. And really, by the grace of by my brother, who was stationed in Washington State through the military, and his wife, they got me out of here for a while, and I really started recovery over again. I really did a lot of work on myself, and through that, I've always wanted to start somewhere. Like, it was always kind of a big thing in my head that I really wanted to start recovery housing. The initial thought was to start it for veterans, right? The initial mission for Foundations to Freedom was actually to start this program for veterans. And I really felt when it came time to really build the program out that the veteran mission wasn't big enough. I watched a lot of people suffer. And I've been on both sides of that addiction struggle, being someone myself when I would have that moment of clarity and wanting to get help and start to pick up the phone and dialing, you know, different treatment centers and detox, and the first question they ask you is, do you have insurance? And when you say no, they hang up the phone and they're really like, we can't help you.
Yep.
To also being on the other side of that, being with a family member or a friend, trying to help them find that treatment, you know, and getting the same place. So I wanted to start somewhere that any addict that wanted to find freedom from active addiction could come to actually accomplish that and to rebuild their lives and be able to sustain long-term recovery. But it was so much bigger than that, right? When I was in active addiction and going through different sober livings, they all kind of looked the same to me, right? They all were, here's a roof over your head, here's a bed to sleep in, go to meetings, get a job, and figure it out. And I don't know about, you know, other people, but I was a little bit more broken than that. I really needed more than that to be able to sustain long-term recovery. So when I started this program, I really spent a lot of time in the very beginning before we ever took clients to build our wraparound services for our clients to really be able to help them build in early recovery and to be able to sustain that, right? So what makes Foundations to Freedom different in the company that I built, the recovery residences that we have here? I think the very first thing is our wraparound services. We have on-site case management, and every single client that walks through our doors gets a case manager assigned to them at admission. That case manager does their assessment, does their intake, meets with them at least weekly, usually in phase, we're a 3-phase program, usually in phase 1 it's a whole lot more than weekly, you know, it's almost daily, and that person helps them get their ID, their social security card, helps them get back to work, help them get medical insurance, help them get, you know, the medical care that they need. If they don't have their high school diploma, we work with an agency called Core Prep to get them their high school diploma. You know, if I haven't learned anything in these last 5 years, it's that, you know, mental health and substance abuse go hand in hand. So we work really hard to get our clients the mental health services that they need so they can really work on that early on to sustain that long-term recovery, right? So they're not using substances to cover a mental health problem, which is so important.
Sure.
We work with several agencies to do that, you know, and the list really goes on. We have full-time transportation here at Foundations to Freedom. So what that looks like really is my transportation team comes in every single day at 6 a.m. They, my really dedicated team, they come in at 6 o'clock every morning. They are taking our women and children and our single dads, those children that are in our program, to school and daycare. And then after that, they're coming back and they're taking our clients to work. They're taking our clients to doctor's appointments. They're taking our clients to court. They're taking our client to, you know, whatever they
have to do.
Whatever they have to do. Help taking them to Career Source, help them get a job. We have a partnership with them. We go to Career Source every Wednesday for our new clients that are looking for employment. For that partnership, you know, mental health appointments, doctor's appointments, whatever that may look like that they need, we're helping them do. And our houses are staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, you know, in the afternoons, that staff comes in, and one other thing that we do here at Foundations is we provide all the food for our clients, all the meals. So,
a lot of food. I saw the kitchen.
What I think is very important, because I've been in other recovery sober livings and recovery houses where they didn't provide the food, and you watch people with food stamps or family that was still willing to support them, you know, eat really well. And if you were somebody like myself who didn't have anybody left in their lives because all those bridges were burned to the ground and incinerated beyond repair, it seemed like an active addiction. You know, you didn't really eat well and you struggled, right? Because you didn't have a job and you really had no way to feed yourself. So we provide all the food for our clients here. We provide breakfast and dinner every single day, 365 days a year. So my staff comes in and the clients cook the meals for the clients, and we eat family style here every single night in all of our houses.
So is it fair to say that for Thanksgiving you have a very nice Thanksgiving feast?
Yes, we do.
And Christmas Day you have a really nice Christmas dinner?
The last couple years for Christmas we've actually done it Italian style. And,
there we go.
So, but yes, Thanksgiving is a feast. We invite any family members, you know, that want to come out for the clients, and the turkeys and hams and everything you can imagine. We have a huge feast here on the holidays. And even 4th of July and things like that, we cook. We barbecue, you know, we try to get our clients, show our clients how to have fun in early recovery without substances, you know. So we take them to do various things. They go to Monster Jam every year. We go to recovery conventions. But also, you know, we transport them to an NA or AA meeting every single night.
Every night?
Every night. It's really house's choice. You know, some houses may lean more to AA, some may lean more to NA, whatever that looks like. It's really house's choice. But every single night we use our transportation.
And they're going somewhere.
We have 11 vans, and we transport them to a meeting every single night. You know, and we work really hard to help our clients through anything that they may be facing while, you know, in early recovery, whether that is a criminal past that they're still dealing with, an open case, and helping them put that in their background, helping them deal with, you know, a DCF case, maybe they've had their children removed because of active addiction. We work really closely with the court systems to help reunify families. We've actually had a lot of success. We've reunified 51 of our clients with their families since we started that program 3 years ago.
That's amazing.
And all but 2 still have their kids today. So I'm very proud of that program. You know, and we're one of the few that do house single dads and their children as well, which I think is so important.
So now if I'm a dad and I have my kid,
yes,
and I need recovery, you're gonna let me come and get recovery, and my kid's gonna come and hang out too.
They can stay here with you, yes, you know, they can live with you.
And if they gotta get to school, we figure out a way and we get them to school.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, absolutely.
That's unheard of where we're from.
Really, it's unheard of in a lot of places.
Yeah.
You know, I think that some places may have the single mother housing, but the single dads is very much an afterthought.
Right. Wow.
You guys have eliminated every single worry or that someone that's just coming into the doors for the first time, and like, you know, the transportation, meals are taken care of. If they don't have a phone, you mentioned that. I know that you guys get them a phone.
Well, we have phones because of the application that we use for our clients, or that application is called One Step. Part of that is them having a phone to check into their meetings, to check into work, things, job searches, things like that. So yes, we have phones that we give our clients when they first come in the door. If they don't have a phone, that way they have a phone to job search and be able to get those phone calls for interviews, but to also be part of the program and how it works, they need that. So we give them when they first come.
So it's fair enough to say whatever excuse an addict can come up with, because we are the best at coming up with excuses.
I'm
right? Well, wait a second. I can't do this because I need to do that. You say, don't worry about it. We got it all figured out.
Absolutely.
Been there, done that. We've got this down to a science. We've got you covered. You have nothing to worry about. We will fulfill your entire day with whatever you need done. You'll handle it.
Yep.
So what about animals?
So I have a sister who works at the veterinary clinic down the street, where her staff will help temporarily house the animals, cats, dogs. And also I've had some of my, you know, I have a staff of 49 as of today, and here at the recovery houses, and I've had my staff temporarily house the animals so that our clients can get recovery, and then we return their animals when they graduate.
Love it.
So if I'm ready to retire and I want a job, are you going to hire me? Do I qualify?
Absolutely. You know, I find, you know, most of my staff, except for, so out of those 49 staff members, all but about 3 are in
gone through the
long-term
program.
recovery.
That's a
Or in
blessing.
long-term recovery themselves.
Yep.
And I think probably about 14 of those right now are adults.
That's amazing.
So, you know, except for, so every member of my team who has direct client contact, the transportation team, the care coordinators that work the houses from 1 to midnight every day, my case management team, my housing directors, myself, my members of my admin team, as well as contractors that work on the houses, are all in long-term recovery.
Right. So we're gonna get Greg on the show now.
Okay.
And introduce yourself and tell him your story, and then tell him what you do here at the Foundation of Freedom.
All right, thanks, Mike. My name's Greg. I'm a case manager here at Foundations of Freedom. My journey at Foundations of Freedom started off as a client, and before I made it to Foundations of Freedom, it was a long journey, right? I have a lot of lived experience in addiction, 27 years. Started off 5 years old, my parents separated. After that, you know, I had an alcoholic stepfather and alcoholic stepmother in my life. So during the school week, I was around the alcoholism, and on the weekends I was around the alcoholism. So it became something that I thought was normal, to the effect of where, you know, the parental figures in my life would offer me alcohol on the weekends and stuff like that. You know, we went and did a lot of like out in the woods, 4-wheel driving, grew up with big trucks and stuff, which was cool. But it was a party scene all the time throughout all of my younger years. And then when I was 8 or 9, my dad got me he got me a Yamaha Enduro, a 175. It was a little bit too tall for me, so you're
You're a pretty tall guy.
But I thought, you know, oh, this is cool, man. I got a dirt bike. And I rode it for a couple years, thought I was Billy Badass, right? And the one thing he told me to do is where we lived at the dead end road in Sanford on Beardo Avenue was an orange grove. And he was like, listen, man, you can hit the dirt road, you can do whatever, but don't go in that orange grove. I'm telling you, it's dangerous.
Right.
But you know, again, I thought I was the man.
You hit the orange road.
So I went in there, and I was 10 years old. This was Thanksgiving Day, 1995, and I was riding through the orange grove, and I hit a big pile of sugar sand and did a tank slap, and I went over the handlebars, and you know, all this I found out later. You know, I was flying through the air. My left leg got cut on the tree, wide open, and then I landed in front of the bike because I was moving about 55, and then the bike ran me over. You know, and I'm laying there.
And this is at 10 years old.
10. I'm laying there. There's nobody around. We're out in the middle of the country. You know, and the most amazing part of this story that, you know, still touches me today, I look over to the left. I knew I couldn't stand up. I thought my legs were broke. So I attempted to stand up, and then I fell back down, and right when I landed, I looked over, and there was a red SUV in the distance, and then two women start walking towards me. And come to find out, they were both off-duty nurses.
Wow.
And they were looking for Lake Jessup, which is freaking 10 miles the other way. So they were off course, you know what I mean?
We call that angels from God.
Absolutely, 100%. By that time, they had already called in a chopper, you know, a helicopter. The ambulance had me in the back for a little bit, but I was literally dying. It was 2 centimeters from a main artery, but it touched it enough where I was bleeding out.
Wow.
They thought I wasn't gonna make it, so they put me in the chopper, airlifted me to ORMC, and you know, another amazing thing. You know, I'm 10 years old. I didn't know that I had an aunt working in the hospital as a nurse, so I had some family there that comforted me a little bit.
Yeah.
I was in and out of consciousness, and then I was out. They put me under, and I woke up, you know, 10 years old, looking at the surgery they did on my legs. And you know, immediately for a child, I was just like, damn, nobody, I'm not gonna have any friends, I'm not gonna be able to walk. I was scared.
Right.
I was terrified. But while I was in the hospital, due to the nature of the surgery, they had to give me a lot of pain meds, you know? So that,
At 10.
at 10 years old, and I believe that was the initial seed that was planted for, you know, during phases of development. The things I know now, looking back, it's like, man, my brain was still developing, I was still developing, and I got these things in my system, right? On top of all the growing up around it, and you know, it's in my face all the time. You know, I had some stepsisters, I had some sisters. I'm the only man, the only boy, so I was like the big brother to all of them. So I always felt that responsibility as time went on, you know, to look out for them. But I was messed up, you know, and you know, just started out with a little bit of smoking after that. By the grace of God, my legs healed up, and I was able to walk again within about 6 months. Got back into school. You know, and we were poor, so we didn't have the money for physical therapy. So my mother literally had me stand up in the hallway and just keep my hands braced and learn how to, you know, get used to walking again from being down so long.
Right.
And you know, after that was it. You know, I was just trying to. I never really knew who I was. I was always hanging out with the older guys, like much older.
Oh yeah.
By 13 years old, I was hanging out with dudes 20 years old, 22 years old. And you know, at that time in the 90s, it was ecstasy. So that was the first thing I did.
Yeah, I remember
15
that.
years old.
Yep.
Taking ecstasy, man, and you know, it would get you real up, and then when it went away, it just went away, and it was very depressing.
Serotonin's on zero.
Yeah, you're on full blast, serotonin on it, and then it just shuts down, and you're super depressed, and it's a really dark place to be. You know, I did find some information out. By 17, I watched a video at a classroom, and it was about what ecstasy does to your brain and eats the holes and can do all this potential damage. So that scared me out of that.
Right. So ecstasy, we're done with.
Ecstasy was done, but you know, then I started doing block housing with my stepfather, who's a block mason, and that whole racket, you know, those are rough guys. You know,
hard labor, long days.
You know, and it was the pill epidemic now. So, you know, we took we call them biscuits, we call them wafers, whatever you want to call it, just to ease the back pain from lifting all day. You know, and then on the weekends it was cocaine, right?
Right.
And I consider myself a functional user in society.
I think we all have.
Right? And, you know, and not to just go into, you know, long story short, the disease is progressive. So as time went on, I kept a job. I did granite and marble fabrication after I did the block housing for a long time. I was pretty skilled in it, so I had this ego like, if I don't show up and I get fired, I go to the next shop. That was before the construction fell.
Sure.
And so I did that for a long time, in and out of shops, just weekend warrior. But I would get paid on Friday and I couldn't even buy a drink on Monday.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing. I couldn't even buy myself lunch or get enough gas. I had to borrow money from the boss.
My dad had an employee. He would get paid on Friday. He was borrowing money on Monday.
Yeah.
All year long.
Yep. And I was normally hitting up for like $60 on Monday and $60 on Thursday.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, we got to figure this out. He's like, the only reason I keep you around is because you're skilled at what you do. And that, that didn't help my ego at all.
Sure.
But I was also just always in a constant state of, like, I had this dark cloud over me. And in my mind, all through my 20s and 30s, I had all the excuses in the world, right? I grew up around it. My family did it. Why can't I do it? It's normal. You get out of my face. I didn't want to hear it.
Right.
But by 29, the intravenous use started, and that was the darkest. That was the end of my journey. But it was a 10-year
Wow.
ordeal. 29 to 39, I did that.
And this was crystal meth?
Yeah. And
right?
it became anything I could put in there because
Anything.
I still was using Dilaudid, the pills, except I was putting them in a needle. So Dilaudid, heroin. I said I would never touch heroin or fentanyl, and until I did.
And then you would do crystal meth and then fentanyl and heroin to bring it down?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I would go up, and then if I needed to go to sleep, I would do that, and that created a lot of overdose. In the last 3 years of my using, I overdosed 9 times. I was pronounced dead at a laundromat in the land one time. And just real quick, so in Florida, like if you have a bunch of dope on you and you're pronounced dead upon arrival, they can't charge you with it. And they were pissed about that because I went off in the ambulance. When I got to the hospital, I came back and the sheriff was standing there and he's like, man, I want to charge you for that so bad because I had quite a bit on me, And he's like, but I'm gonna, order you to do a substance abuse evaluation at Stuart Marchman.
Sure.
And he's like, and this is a directive order from law enforcement. You have to go. And I didn't go. And I went out to Daytona a little bit, went back out here. I got arrested. The last time I got arrested was at Boston Coffee right here. I was in there nodding out, and they came in to trespass me. And, I was so out of it, I didn't realize I had stuff on me.
Sure. Yeah.
So when he did the search, he was like, hey, we just want you to get out of here, don't come back. He goes, you know what, Mr. Brannon, let me pat you down real quick just for my safety, your safety, public safety before I let you go. He found it. It was one needle, but it had residue of all that stuff in there. They hit me with a Schedule 2 felony. They hit me with a felony possession. They hit me with the paraphernalia.
You know what we call that, right? That was your angel.
It was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself.
My officer that put me away for 7 years, he's my angel. Today I love him. Right? So like, I would hope that if you saw that cop today that whacked you with that hard charge, you would thank him. Because it probably saved your life.
It did.
When you look at it like that.
So I'm sitting in jail, and they're already telling me, like, man, you did it this time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, this ain't a slap on the wrist, brother. You're going up the road.
And they finally got you.
Yeah, they were like, we got you, man. After all your arrests, that was my 13th arrest in Volusia County. I always, ended up getting treatment, or, one time my mother Marchman acted me, and I bucked it for a while, right? I was rebelling.
So is that different than a Baker Act?
Oh, it's much more involved, right? Like, you go in front of the judge, they sentence you to treatment. It's just like a jail sentence. You got to complete it, or you get a warrant. It's a civil warrant that they put out for your arrest.
Gotcha. Keeps on calling.
So I'm sitting in jail.
Go answer it.
And my family's cut me off at this stage. Dad, Mom, don't come home. Figure it out. We're cutting you off. I had hit the bottom. I didn't have any resources left. I could call and check in, but they said an attorney was off the table. You're going to have to figure this out. And I was terrified. So I had a public defender. I meet with him. He's like, it's not looking good. You're no longer a candidate for drug court. He's like, we've exhausted all the treatment options. You're going to prison, 100%. And I was like, man, there's got to be something I can do, And talking to my good friend Tiffany, she's like, listen, just plead out to the judge. That's all you can do,
Yeah.
And so I did it. I was terrified to do it, but they also told me right there in court, you're going to plead out to the judge, you're going to excuse your public defender. The judge can max you out. And not just what we're talking right now, but 5 years. If he doesn't buy what you're saying, you know? So I put out to him and I told him, listen, for the first time in my life, I have the gift of desperation. I'm going to voluntarily go to this program I heard about. And it was still relatively new at the time, and he was like, oh, I've heard about it, but there wasn't like a lot of data yet. So
Sure.
He was like going off of what I was saying. He's like, so listen, I'm going to give you this opportunity. You're going to sit in here for another 60 days. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm going to let you out. He said, if I ever see you again.
That's it. You're
That's
done.
it. He said, if I see you for a jaywalk, he's
done.
like, I'm reinstating this sentence on you, man. It's like, it's not happening. It doesn't matter. He's like, I don't ever want to see you in here again. And so I came here December 10, 2023, and that's when my new life began. Like, it was just amazing, the wraparound care that I saw, the love and support.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, coming together and getting connected in the recovery community was what was so amazing to me, and I saw for the first time, hey, maybe these people really do care, right?
I felt it yesterday.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked in the house,
Yeah.
I felt it immediately. As soon as I met you guys in the parking lot yesterday, I felt that love. It was like instant. You know, I can't rave about it. You know, it's just. I think, and I was telling Katherin, this is heaven for recovery.
It's very family oriented.
Yeah.
So I graduated October 24th, 2024. And, you know, by the grace of God, you know, I spoke to Katherin about becoming a care coordinator. And she was like, well, where are you at with your pink time? And I was very close to a year. And she's like, all right, you know what? We're going to do this. She gave me the opportunity to work as a care coordinator. I did that position for 7 months. And then there was an opportunity for case management. So I accepted that offer as well. And I really love the position because it really is where the meat and potatoes are for me. Like, not only are we able to deal with our current clients, but we're doing outreach. You know, I do the assessments. And what that looks like is when the first point of contact, right? You know, they're just trying to, you know, hey, what's this all about? You know, and I was like, well, let's get some information. We'll do the assessment. We'll talk to the treatment team, and we'll bring you in for an in-person. We'll get to know you a little better. And then after they come in for their intake, that's when we get to meet them. We get to know them a little better. We try to get, and the way that it's designed on the intake, the questions that we ask, you know, a lot of times they're like, why do you need to know this? I'm like, listen, man, the more information you give me, the more resources I can provide.
Right.
You know, it's not to say, hey, you're this or you're that, like, you know, and it helps them a lot to see a graduate of the program, also a recovering addict. You know, they get that relation right away where they feel comfortable to talk just like we talk about in the rooms.
Right.
You know, closed mouths don't get fed. The more that we know about you, the more we can help you. You know, and it goes from there. A lot of time they have grief of loss of family members, so you know we can resource it to Foundation to Healing, our sister company, which is the clinical side of things, right? They can do trauma therapy, they can do EMDR, right? IOP and PHP, and you know during that phase of development, they get all the tools they need to get more stabilized mentally. And then, because this is a program of action, right? And then at that point, we would give them time to find employment, secure employment, you know, get a bank account. Some of these guys come, they don't have an ID, they don't have a social, they don't have a birth certificate, they got the clothes on their back.
Yeah.
And if, maybe some shoes, right.
So now if they don't have clothes,
we provide it.
you provide the clothes.
Absolutely.
The bedding, the housing, the food, everything. From start to finish, everything that you need. Soap, everything. And I saw your bathrooms yesterday.
Yeah.
They're state of the art.
Yeah.
They're state of the art.
They're literally
I'll shower there.
And
right?
she mentioned that they did not clean
Right.
them just because we were here.
And we went and walked through your new house that's just getting reconstructed right now. And some of those beds look brand new.
Yeah.
But Katherin told me, she goes, I don't know where they've been, who's been on them, whatever. We have a system, we're getting rid of them, and we're bringing in all brand new beds.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, where somebody else would recycle them.
Right, because
You know?
we want them to have dignity,
Yep.
feel that they're in a safe
Self-worth
atmosphere
again.
of recovery.
Yep.
Because if they don't have that safe place to come every day, right, and they don't have the accountability that we provide with the eyes that we have on clients, because it's not just so we got weekly case management with each client, or as often as they need. We have care coordinators on the floor. They're out there living with these guys. They're in the house. They got eyes on them.
They're not just showing up from somewhere and so, hey, how are you guys doing? You know, they're living in it with them. They're a part
It's
of
the
it.
day to day. If they got something going on, they tell us, and then you know what we do? We bring them in. And we spend time with them until we can talk them off that cliff. You know, they don't have to go at this alone ever. That's the most important key.
Oh, yeah.
And is it fair enough to say that you have 111 beds right now,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
As of now.
Yeah.
In a couple months, that's going to change
Absolutely.
because you're building more. Catherine's not stopping.
No.
So out of the 111 beds, right now you've got 109 beds that are filled.
We stay pretty close to full, right? And we stay with a waiting list. And like I mentioned yesterday when we were touring the house in Daytona, you know, if somebody comes to us and they're in desperate need of detox, treatment, or we got a waiting list, that, you know, we don't just send them out the door. See you later, good luck. No,
Right.
no. So, you know, we make calls. We have a lot of community partners that we have, you know, that we can call. We know what their bed space is. We know what the detox has available. We can bring them. We have multiple choices, right? For all those options, right? When it doesn't end there.
Treatment without insurance.
Treatment without insurance, right? No matter what the deal is, we can provide a resource. Get them to a safe place. And like, you know, we all the time we get guys come in, we're full, and that's when we find out where their willingness is at.
Yep.
So, hey, listen, I can get you a bed at an inpatient for 30 to 60 days, and then you'll be open to a bed here. Yeah?
Right.
You know, and then when they make that decision, it's like, of course you're going to get the bed here. The willingness is there. They want it that bad.
Yeah.
You know, outreach in the community is a big thing we do. We go out with carts. We take food bags with information on the program. You know, we pull guys in right off the street. You know, right in the thick of it. We go in the trap. We go in the hood. We
Yeah.
go right.
Now you said you got a spot. You were telling me yesterday, your old neighborhood or something. You guys got a spot. You and
So one of our first graduates, William.
yeah, that's right.
His stomping grounds over there in North Street in Daytona. So, you know, where he was ripping and running. And, you know, everybody knows him out there still to this day. They know him because he was out there for 40 years. So they built a recovery cafe right there on the street.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So as long as you go in there and engage with like peer services, they'll let you get a shower, they give you a meal, and then we go there and do presentations from time to time.
Right.
And we walk the North Street block out there with all the trap stars.
And nobody forgot you.
No.
No, they all still
And,
know you.
You know, even if we told them 3 or 4 times, you never know when the opportunity or that window is going to open. And when that window opens, that's the time. You don't just say, hey, hope you call. No, we pull the van up, we open the door, get in right now.
Yeah.
Let's go. How serious are you?
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
And then whatever it takes to get them into a safe place.
I had a guy reach out to me this morning and said, will they take somebody from Rochester? My answer was they'll take somebody from anywhere. I said, but you just can't send anybody, right? I said, these people that are going to come through the Foundation to Freedom, for me, from what I viewed, right, my personal opinion, is you got to want this 150%, especially if we're going to fly you in, right? We're going to let you come to the program at Foundation of Freedom, and you're from out of state, right? You got to be at your rock bottom. You got to want this more than anything else in the world. Because without rock bottom, without feeling that dirt and that pain and that disgust, recovery, like you still got another one in you. You know, he's still got another one in him. You know, so for what I've gathered from visiting and touring and hanging out with you guys for the last 24 hours, is as long as you're willing to give it that 100%, then you have the cure. Like, you can figure it out. You will make sure that person has every possible source and every possible way and avenue to that road to recovery.
The key is connecting them to the network community where the mutual support groups are. That's the long-term key.
Yeah.
Because if you come in and you don't go to these meetings and you don't get a sponsor and you don't get a home group, you don't get involved, what did you accomplish?
Yeah.
You don't have a solution.
So if there's one thing that you want to say to the community before we wrap this up, what would your last one thing be to the entire community around the entire world? And we're going to have Katherin come up and stand with us right now, because I want her to deliver that one message too. And then we're going to have Carson do it one more time. And we just want the community to know that recovery is possible. The sky's the limit. Become limitless. When you gather with people like this, there's nothing we can't do. So
I think my message personally would be that all 4 of us sitting here are living proof that recovery is truly possible. And you can come from the depths of your addiction and really lead a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. And, you know, I've been doing this for 5 years now. I don't think I've ever met a person that was not truly a good human once they put the drugs down, right?
Yep.
I don't think I've ever met a truly bad individual. And I know that any addict with just a little bit of willingness can recover and sustain long-term recovery. So if you're hopeless and have a gift of desperation, we are absolutely here to help. Don't give up, and just make a call, and we'll show up for you, we promise.
What I would say is recovery is possible. I'm living proof. For 27 years, you know, my disease continued to progress. I ended up living in the streets. I was around the gangbangers. I was locked up in jail. I was fighting for survival. You know, all the things. Whatever your story is, you can clear the wreckage of your past. Every person that comes to us has resiliency, right? It is possible to recover. We have the resources available to make that opportunity available to you. You know, don't sell yourself short. You're worth it. It doesn't matter what you've been through, how dark it is, how bad it is. Recovery is possible.
I would say do it for yourself. You know, I try to do it for other people and other reasons plenty of times, whether it's probation, not wanting to go to jail and all that stuff. It never lasted. I never sustained real sobriety.
Sure.
And when I made the decision to do it for myself, and that was the only person I wanted to do it for, I've accomplished things, and God has blessed me with a life that I never would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And through the grace of God, the four of us have come together, and I feel like we're already family. So if there's
100%.
anything you ever need from me, you just let me know. Katherin, I'm going to come here for retirement. I'm going to come work for you. Carson, tomorrow you are going to take first place.
Yes.
And you're going to win,
100%.
because anything is possible. Just like recovery is possible,
Absolutely.
Carson winning tomorrow's race is possible. And we're all going to be there from Foundations of Freedom, rooting you on. Car number 53. It's going to be
Yes.
live on TV, so please watch it on TV. I'm sure it's going to be what, ESPN, something like that.
The CW channel.
Right, CW channel, NASCAR
Nice.
racing. And guys, thank you so much. This has been such an amazing week, and I'm glad and blessed that I have the opportunity to be sitting here and standing with you guys. And just thank you. Thank you very much. Right?
Thank you for coming.
Right.
We really
Thank
appreciate you jumping on a plane and coming
no
coming to
problem.
visit us here.
Right?
Very,
I'm going to have to come back, you know.
Florida.
I'm going to have to get me a room next to you.
Yeah, I love your excitement. I love your energy.
Yeah.
I love what you bring to the table, and thank you for having us.
All right, Bill
Carson's
from
gonna win
Chaos.
because
Yes,
by the
number
grace
one.
of God, we got this.
That
We
white
got
and blue
this.
53, baby.
53, baby. We got this 53. We got it.
Woo!
Built from Chaos. Foundation of Freedom. Carson Ware. Thank you very much.